Okay. So as promised, I think this is an interesting sector that is going to a lot of, let me start again. This is a sector that is trendy, right? I've always said the trend is your friend, and this sector will continue investing in self-driving technology, how to cash in on the trend. But here's a nice thing about this trend. I think it's here to stay. Like, as much as we're hearing about, certain technologies and things that are coming and going, I think we've got one here that is not going away. It fits well into the climate crisis situation, right? They're wanting people to move into what's called a 15-minute city where everything is very close. They're not really wanting consumers, people to be driving cars, and self-driving technology is really taking off. So anyway, have a listen.
The big companies that play in this space that people should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, the big companies, of course, Waymo is probably in the lead at the moment, and GM Cruise is certainly there. As Dan mentioned, Tesla, of course. But one of the problems with a lot of this industry is the lack of sharing of information and data. And so we really don't know enough about how these vehicles are performing. And while I don't disagree that perhaps 1 out of 5 will, by the end of the decade, will have some degree of autonomy, and many of them, in fact, have some degree of autonomy right now with Super Cruise and others, I just think it's going to be a little tougher for the average American to take a vehicle, perhaps without a steering wheel, when in fact it can't do everything that a driver can do. I think we're probably 20 years away from being able to go on dirt roads, going on mountain roads and other kinds of things. But for everyday driving, I think by the end of the decade, you're going to see quite a few, and 1 out of 5 is a pretty good estimate on the road.
Yeah, we have different levels of autonomy here, from things like you said, Super Cruise, to potential of robo-taxis and things like that. So Dan, putting your investor hat on, what do you think are some of the big plays here? Is it the automakers, or is it even like chip makers like NVIDIA and companies like that?
Well, I think it's similar to what we see with AI. I mean, there's derivative plays from the chip perspective in terms of, when you look at that ecosystem from a self-driving autonomous and who plays there, that's throughout Asia as well as the US, NVIDIA, and others that are going to be going after this market. But then ultimately, it's really, I think the first derivative, it's going to be the OEMs. I think that's where you look at Tesla. I think ultimately Uber is actually a tangential play, because we believe not just 1 of 5, potentially 2 of every 5 Ubers end of the decade could be self-driving autonomous, basically no driver. And then you're going to look at the commercial side, in terms of some of these commercial plays. And I think Sam brings up GM. I do think that's really important. I think Cruise is a significantly undervalued asset at GM. And for anyone that's done any sort of test drives there in San Francisco, it's eye-popping in terms of that technology.
Lawrence.
Well, there you go. So he's suggesting companies such as right here, General Motors, Tesla, Uber,